Post-pandemic era. Today we look at the world's economy. Anything positive will come out soon? Stay with us. Dr. Michael Hopkins, our special guest. Dr. Michael Hopkins, welcome with us. We would like to know from you, what is the status of the economy in general post-lockdown?
That's an excellent question, and a lot of investors would really like to know the answer. I follow quite closely because I have a global portfolio, but you say, when you ask an economist these questions, you can't assume that he knows. But it seems to me that there are other things going on as well as the pandemic. We've got a lot of these rather nasty dictators hanging around. Brazil, Poland, Hungary, India's not looking so good, China's not looking so good, and the biggest surprise, of course, is the United States. And my own country's not looking so good either. And this is not really much to do with the pandemic. The pandemic is adding grist to that mill and certainly making things worse as it's restricting tourism and movement around the world. And in fact, in some countries, as you said, lockdown is actually easing in some cases, but it might come back in again because lockdown can lead to more social intermingling, and people think they're free, they don't have to wear masks, and wonderful. Unfortunately, this is an excellent breeding ground for this virus, and this thing keeps coming back. So it's not going to go away so quickly. But most people think that by the end of the year, most economies will turn around. And they might even boom and look quite good. They'll be very, very different, as you know.
There might be some conditions for the booming, and I've read a lot of documents around sustainable investment, development goals, pandemic, climate change, green policy. What can you tell us about all these words that we are all mixing up in a way?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. The thing is, there is a new wave for the other pandemic, which is climate change, global warming that you mentioned, which hasn't gone away. And it's still there. And in fact, companies are more and more investing in these areas because their investors want to do that. We hear huge figures like something $34 trillion are going into sustainable investments. $34 trillion, what does that mean? Well, that's 40 times the defense budget of the United States. So it's quite a lot of money. But is all of it going into green things and so on? The jury's out on that. But there is an awful lot of interest. And the pandemic is also people taking them into those areas because they're thinking that this pandemic, this is affecting our health services, and our health services are not robust enough. We need to invest there as well. And if the global warming pandemic leads to the same sort of things, we'll invest there as well. So in fact, there is a move towards investing in so-called green things. It's called lots of different names, and the definition is not really clear. And one of the problems is that people really don't know what they're investing in sometimes. But I think the future looks good for those sorts of things. And in a way, I think everybody, it's dear to their heart, a good environment in which to live in and bring your kids up in and so on.
Let's stay positive and say, let's trust that there is a real willingness. How do you see the world after?
After the pandemic?
After all this, yes.
I think it'll move to the better because there'll be some tremendous release of energy. People will get back together again. We've already seen that. Probably too early in some countries, especially in the United States, where we're seeing disaster after disaster. We'll have to be very, very careful about the lockdown and not putting it in too quickly. But there's a thirst for people to get together and be together, which means that tourism will take off again. Of course, we're going to lose many airlines and some hotel chains will go bust. But in fact, they're trying to stay awake, thinking and staying alive, thinking that they're going to come back again. But it's very, very difficult for airlines. And I see Emirates, who I travel on a lot, are cutting back quite sharply, giving out email letters every night to their staff to say, I'm sorry, we've got to lay you off. I'm talking to you from Africa, from Nairobi. I mean, the basis of their economy is tourism, and people are not coming because the country's closed. And people love this country, and that will change. So, in fact, there'll be a huge boom afterwards. So get ready and start investing in these things. I think that's going to be a great time. And in fact, my bank was telling me that yesterday. I bank with, am I allowed to mention another bank? No, I'm not. I won't. But I bank with a Swiss bank, and they were telling me yesterday, Michael, it's going to come to the better. I must say, if I look at it out of my window right now, it doesn't look great.
So we see that some sectors are suffering tremendously. But if I jump to the next questions, what are the trends and opportunities that this pandemic will create, such as creativity, but many other things? What is your view about that?
Yes, I think people-centered things will come, and I mentioned tourism.
Yeah.
But of course, information technology has shown its strength right now through the pandemic, and that's going to go from strength to strength. People will realize that they can work from home. And they don't have to, the drudgery of going into the office every day, they don't have to do that anymore. On the other hand, they will still have to meet. So there will be some interaction. So there will be probably a slump on commuter transport and so on, which might be a good thing because you'll be able to get a seat on the trains in London. That'd be nice. So there'll be a slump there. There's probably going to be a boom in technology stocks and information technology especially. I think a boom in tourism. The airlines are going to come back in again. They've got to look at their green bottom line because investors are looking at that. For the time being, people might stick closer to home. We don't know right now, but we see people already looking. If I had somebody today wanting to rent my house on the coast, coming in from Hove in Brighton. So I'm very pleased about that. So people are starting to move. And I think the signs, depending on which country you're in, of course, if you're in a Brazil or you're in the United States, look pretty ugly. If you're in a South Korea or a Vietnam, even parts of Africa where I am, which have handled the crisis fairly well, it could get worse. But there are bright signs on the horizon. So I think, yes, the rest of this year is going to be a bit rocky. So in terms of investment, you'll have to look very, very carefully where, and already the pundits, and I look at the financial television, the pundits are already suggesting where. I won't say which pundits,
okay.
Because Yugoslavia got its own brilliant pundits.
Let's finish with on a positive note. We all miss relationship, humans, lively meeting and things like that. So it's starting to come slowly. Shortly, can you tell us how do you see things and might have a positive impact on the economy? Just to finish on a positive note.
Okay, let me go from macro to me. I haven't been in a pub since the middle of March. Mm-hmm. I love going to the pub and meeting my friends. I don't drink an awful lot, but we miss that, and so do my friends. Mm-hmm. And that is going to come back. Humans are gregarious people. We love being with each other. Okay. And that's certainly going to come back in a big way. And we're going to realize how precious it is. Yes, we're going to have to take precautions, especially when this virus is still around. But in the future, I think there's going to be a lot of great parties coming towards the end of this year, maybe early next year. And please, I'm going to come. I'm ready. I'll come.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Welcome to see us. Thanks very much for this very interesting interview. And welcome to see us soon, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. Stay tuned.